Okay, I'll begin my air brakes test. I'm going to start my engine. Turn on my air. And for the first brake test is my parking brake test. To do this test, I need to retrieve my wheel chock. To do my parking brake test, I'm going to close my door. I'm going to adjust my seat and put on my seat belt. Next, I'm going to apply my service brake, put my bus into drive, and then slightly accelerate, and my bus should not move. Then I'll apply my service brake, put my bus back into neutral, and this test is operational. My next test I'm going to do is my 1 minute air loss test. For this test, I have to replace my wheel chock. And then I will get back in my seat. I'll put my seat belt back on and close my door. Then I'll adjust my seat. For this 1 minute air loss test, I have to make sure that I'm at a maximum air pressure of 100 to 125 psi. In order to do this, I need to release my parking brake. I need to fan my service brake to below 90 psi. I'm now below 90 psi. I will now engage my parking brake and slightly accelerate to help rebuild air pressure. I'm listening for a purge sound to let me know that I am at maximum psi. I am now at a maximum psi with my primary needle at 122 psi and my secondary needle at 122 psi. I will now turn off my engine and release my parking brake. I'll then apply full application to my service brake and hold. My new psi reading is my primary is at 108 psi and my secondary needle is at 110 psi. My 1 minute air loss test begins now. During this 1 minute, I should not lose more than 3 psi. My 1 minute is up. My primary needle is still at 108 psi and my secondary needle is still at 110 psi. I did not lose more than 3 psi's in this 1 minute. This test is operational. My next test I'm going to do is my low air warning light and buzzer test. To do this test, I'm going to start my engine. And I will continue to fan my service brake, and my warning light and buzzer should activate by 60 psi. As soon as my light and buzzer comes on, I'm going to turn off my engine. My low air light and buzzer has activated. My primary needle is at 79 psi. My secondary needle is at 86 psi. This test is operational. For my next test is my spring pop-up test. To do this test, I'm going to continue to fan my service brake, and my spring brake should pop up between 40 and 20 psi. My spring brake has activated. My primary needle is at 40 psi and my secondary needle is at 42 psi. This test is operational. For my next test I'm going to do is my service brake test. To do this test, I need to start my engine and rebuild air pressure. apply my service brake, put my bus into drive, release my parking brake, and accelerate at 5 miles per hour. I'm gonna then apply my service brake and full applications and come to a complete stop. I'm checking to see that the bus comes to a complete stop and doesn't pull left or right. And this test is operational. If any of these tests weren't done in the proper limits, this bus would be taken to garage and deadline until repaired. This completes my air brakes test.
Door hinges and rollers mounted securely with no missing nuts and bolts. Window is clean, not cracked. Rubber seals intact, not leaking. Handrails secured with no sharp edges. My interior, exterior lights are secured and operational. The interior stairwell is clean, clear of hazards, no loose or worn threads. Wheelchair ramp secured and operational. Using a 3-point of contact when entering the bus. Get into the driver's seat. You're going to put on your seat belt. Seat belt should be secured to the seat with no cuts or frays to the belt, and it is secured and operational. This bus is equipped with automatic transmission. It must be in neutral before starting. I'm going to put it onto night run. Okay, my low oil light and my voltmeter light should turn off when the bus is started. My coolant light should remain off. So I'm going to go ahead and start my bus. My low oil light and voltmeter light turned off, and my coolant light remained off. Now I have my gauges here. My oil light, it should be 8 to 12 psi when in idle and 40 to 60 psi when in operation. It is at 20 psi. I just started my bus. My coolant should be between 180 and 205. It is at 180. Voltmeter should be between 24 to 28 volts, and I'm reading 26 volts. So these gauges are operational. So I have my windshield wipers here. I will turn it on. Looking at my left windshield wiper, white windshield wiper, and washers, they're operational. My blade should not be hard or brittle. My windshield should be clean, not cracked, should not have any illegal stickers or obstructions, and my rubber seals are intact. My interior and exterior mirrors are properly secured with no missing nuts and bolts. The windows, the lenses are clean, not cracked, and they are properly adjusted. So my heater and defroster is operational. My horn is operational. So this is my hazard lights. So I'm gonna press down here. This is telling me I need to activate my lights. I have my left turn signal, my right turn signal, and my high beams. They are operational. And then my 4-way flashers. They're operational. I have my door here. I'm going to feed the air to the door. The door would have been closed anyway. I'm going to open and close within 5 seconds. This test is operational. I'll go ahead and put my handle all the way back to operate my back door. Now I'm going to go into my emergency equipment. I have spare fuses for different amperage located in my panel up here. I have my fire extinguisher. Fire extinguisher should be properly labeled with ABC. Inspection tag up to date. and it should be properly charged in the green. So this is, we have 3 reflective triangles. So we have to set up one. And it should not be leaking sand from the base, and this is operational. I have 3 different types of emergency exits. I have my front and rear door. I also have 3 roof hatches. And then I have my windows with red handles. All of my emergency exits should be properly labeled with locations and instructions to operate the front and rear door. I would break the glass, turn the red handle, push the door open. I would do that with my rear door. On my roof hatches, I will turn the handle and push the roof hatch up. All of my windows with red handles, I will pull the handle down and push it out. If I'm missing any labels and instructions, I will note it on my VCR card. I'm checking my handrails, my sanction bars. They should be mounted securely with no loose or worn fasteners. My seats are secured to the floor with no sharp edges. My rear door, I would check the rear door the same way I check my front door. It should open and close within 5 seconds. This is operational, and I would also check the back door the same way I did the front.
Okay, we're going to start with the front of the bus. My clearance lights, identification lights, turn signals, 4-way flashers, side markers, and reflectors. The proper color is amber. My headlights, low beam and high beam, the proper color is clear. Okay, all my lights are securely mounted with no missing or broken screws. Lenses are clean, not cracked or missing, and all lights are operational. Now I'm going to go to my windshield wipers. Securely mounted with the proper tension and no missing nuts. Blades are not worn or damaged. Exterior mirrors. Brackets are mounted securely with no loose nuts or bolts, not damaged. Mirrors are clean, not cracked or damaged, and properly adjusted. Okay, so I'm going to go to the driver's side of the bus to my steering components. Okay, I'm checking my steering box and hoses. Securely mounted with no cracks, dents, or damages, no missing nuts, bolts, or cotter pins. My hoses are not cracked, kinked, or frayed, and there's no leaks from the pump or hoses. It's also properly lubricated. Okay, I'm going to close my door. Door and hinges, properly secured to the body with no missing nuts and bolts. Steering linkage. Linkage arms from the steering box to the wheel and connecting tie rods are not worn or cracked. Pitman arm, drag link, steering arm, and tie rod securely mounted with no missing nuts and bolts. No dents or damages. Ball joints and sockets are not worn or loose with no missing nuts, bolts, or cotter pins. Okay, my torque arms. Mounted securely with no cracks, dents, or damages. Shock absorbers, securely mounted to the frame and axle, not cracked, broken, missing, loose, damaged, or leaking hydraulic fluid. Bellows, the suspension on this vehicle is equipped with air bellows and should be checked for damages or audible air leaks. Bellows are securely mounted to the frame and axle. Okay, I'm going to go to my splash guard. Splash guard is securely mounted with no missing or broken screws, and splash guard must cover at least half the width of the tire. Okay, I'm going to check my 5 brake components. Brake hoses, lines, and couplings are secured, not cracked, worn, or leaking air. Brake chambers mounted securely, not cracked, dented, or leaking air. Push rods and slack adjusters mounted securely, not cracked, broken, missing, loose, or damaged. For manual slack adjusters, the brake push rod should not move more than 1 inch with the brake released and pulled by hand. This bus has automatic slack adjusters. Brake linings. They're mounted securely, not broken, cracked, or damaged. Brake linings would be checked through an open area in the back of the drum. Linings should not be worn dangerously thin with a minimum of 1/4 inch of thickness. Lastly, I have my brake drums. No cracks, dents, or holes. No signs of contamination such as grease and oil. No loose or missing bolts. Tire thread is evenly worn. No recaps allowed on the front tire, and nothing stuck in the tire that can puncture the tire. Thread depth is not less than 4/32. The sidewalls, inner and outer sidewalls, have no cuts, bulges, or damages. Inflation. To check the proper inflation requires the use of a tire gauge, and proper inflation should be at 130 psi cold. Valve cap and stem are present and secured with no damages. Rim. No welding repairs other than factory welds. No dents or damages. Lug nuts are all present and secured. No cracks or damages to the lug bolt holes. No rust trails or shiny metal on the rim indicating looseness. The hub seal. No leaks. All bolts are present and secure. Sight glass is used to check proper fluid level in the hub. Okay, before we leave this area, we're going to check for audible air leaks. No audible air leaks from brake chambers, brake hoses, lines, or air bellows. Okay, we're going to go to the back of the bus. All compartment hoses, fittings, couplings, and clamps are secure with no damage or leaks. High pressure hoses have fittings. Low pressure hoses have clamps. There's no leaks, drips, or puddles in the engine area or on the ground of coolant, engine oil, transmission oil, power steering fluid, hydraulic fluid, or fuel. Okay, first thing back here is the alternator. Mounted securely to the engine with no cracks, dents, or damages. No missing nuts or bolts. It is belt driven. Belts do not have more than 1/2 to 3/4 tension. Belts show no signs of wear, cracks, frays, or loose fibers. Electric connections are secured with no frayed or bare wires. Next is my power steering pump. The power steering pump is mounted securely to the engine with no cracks, dents, or damages. No missing nuts and bolts. It is gear driven. Hoses are not cracked, frayed, or kinked, and there's no leaks from the pump or connecting hoses. Next is the water pump. Water pump mounted securely to the engine with no cracks, dents, or damages. No missing nuts or bolts. It is belt driven. I would check the belt the same way as I did for the alternator. Hoses are not cracked, frayed, or kinked, and there's no leaks from the pump or hoses. Okay, next is the engine oil. This is the dipstick. Engine must be off. The dipstick is used to check the proper oil level. Level should be between the full and refill mark. No metal flakes or discoloration in the oil. Next is the coolant tank. Coolant tank is mounted securely with no cracks, dents, or damages. No missing nuts and bolts. Hoses are not frayed, cracked, or kinked. No fluid leaks from the tank or its connecting hoses. The sight glass is used to check the proper coolant level. Okay, I'm checking my exhaust system. No signs of leaks, such as rust or carbon soot in the area of the exhaust. Okay, then I'm going to close my compartment door. Door is securely mounted to the body with no missing nuts or bolts. Okay, next we're going to check the rear compartment. The first thing we're looking at is the power steering fluid container. Mounted securely with no cracks, dents, or damages. No missing nuts and bolts. The hoses are not cracked, frayed, or kinked, and there's no leaks from the container or connecting hoses. We also have a dipstick or sight glass, and it's used to check the proper fluid level. The proper level would be between full and the refill on the dipstick. Okay, then I have the air compressor. Air compressor is mounted securely to the engine with no cracks, dents, or damages, no missing nuts and bolts. It's gear driven. Air lines are not cracked, frayed, or kinked, and there's no audible air leaks from the compressor or its connecting hoses. Okay, and then I'm going to close my door. And door and hinges are properly secured to the body with no missing nuts or bolts. Okay, so now we're going to do the door side of the bus. I'm going to start with my exterior mirror. Brackets are not worn. They're securely mounted with no missing or loose nuts or bolts, and it's not damaged. Mirrors are clean, not cracked or damaged, and they're also properly adjusted. Okay, my turn signals, my side markers, and my reflectors are all amber in color, except the rear, and the rear is red in color. Okay, all my lights are securely mounted, no crack or missing or broken screws. Lenses are clean, not cracked or missing, and all my lights are operational. Now we're going to go to the fuel tank. Okay, fuel tank and cap are secured with no cracks, dents, or damages. There's no leaks on the ground from the tank or fuel lines. I close my door. Hinges are properly secured to the body with no missing nuts or bolts. Now we're going to check the rear axle area. The first thing I'm looking at is my frame. Okay, so I'm checking out the frame for signs of cracks, broken welds, holes, or other damages to the longitudinal frame, the cross member, the box, and the floor. My drive shaft. Okay, my drive shaft is located down here. It's not bent or cracked or has any signs of looseness. Couplings are secured and free of foreign objects, and it's properly lubricated. Okay, I'm checking my torque arms. Torque arms mounted securely with no cracks, dents, or damages. Okay, now we're looking at the shock absorbers. Mounted securely to the frame and axle, not cracked, broken, missing, loose, damaged, or leaking hydraulic fluid. I'm checking my bellows. Securely mounted to the frame and axle, not cracked, damaged, or leaking air. Okay, now I'm doing my splash guard. They're securely mounted with no missing or broken screws. Splash guard must cover at least half the width of the tire. Okay, now I'm going to go to my 5 brake components. Brake hoses and lines. Couplings, hoses, and lines are secured, not cracked, worn, or leaking air. Brake chambers mounted securely, not cracked, dented, or leaking air. Push rods and slack adjusters mounted securely, not cracked, broken, missing, loose, or damaged. And for manual slack adjusters, the brake push rod should not move more than 1 inch with the brake released and pulled by hand. And this bus has automatic slack adjusters. Brake linings mounted securely, not cracked, broken, or damaged. Brake linings would be checked through an open area in the back of the drum. Linings should not be worn dangerously thin with a minimum of 1/4 inch of thickness. Brake drums, no cracks, dents, or holes. No signs of contamination such as grease or oil. No loose or missing bolts. Okay, that brings us to our tire components. Major tire damage must be reported immediately to the garage. Major tire damage includes bulges, loose threads, and punctures or deep cuts that expose the tire cord. Okay, in the back we have dual tires. It's evenly spaced and not touching. No foreign objects wedged or stuck between the dual tires. The thread. Tire thread is evenly worn with no thread separations. Thread depth is no less than 2/32. Sidewalls. Inner and outer sidewalls have no cuts, bulges, or damages. If recaps are present, there must be no tire separation between the tire cap and casing. Inflation. To check the proper inflation requires the use of a tire pressure gauge, and the proper air pressure should be 130 psi with cold tires. Valve cap and stem are present and secured with no damages. Rim. No welding repairs other than factory welds, no dents or damages. Vent holes should be properly aligned. Lug nuts, all are present and secured. No cracks or damages to the lug bolt holes. No rust trails or shiny metal showing, indicating looseness. Axle seal, all nuts present and secure. No leaks from the seal. And before we leave the area, no audible air leaks from the brake chamber, brake hoses and lines, or air bellows. Okay, we're moving on to the rear of the bus. My rear suspension, there's no air leaks from the suspension system or tires because the bus is sitting level to the ground. Okay, I'm going to check my lights. My clearance lights, identification lights, brake lights, tail lights, and reflectors, the proper color is red. My turn signals and four-way flashers, the proper color is amber. And my reverse lights and license plate light, the proper color is clear. Now, all my lights are securely mounted, no missing or broken screws. Lenses are clean, not cracked or missing, and all my lights are operational. Okay, I'm checking my exhaust system. No signs of leaks, such as rust or carbon soot in the area of the exhaust. Okay, now I'm going to close my engine door. And the door is properly secured to the body with no missing nuts and bolts. Advise the examiner if you think of anything that you may have missed.